Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. And today we are going to, if not finish Samuel HaNagid, at least make a decent attempt at it. So, without further ado, let us begin. It's heart that discerns. It's heart that discerns between evil and good, so work to develop your heart. How many are there who heartless destroy, and think their destruction a start? Stab your heart. Stab your heart with the arrow of study, when your soul tires of learning and learn that the fastest horse receive the whip, and the strongest oxen goads that burn. Is there any frustration? Is there any frustration like that of these, the wise being judged by fools, failing strength as it's broken by force, or the kind who depend on the cruel? Did your father leave you glory? Did your father leave you glory, then die? Extend and perfect his line. If not, build for your soul on your own, be a father for those to come. Could kings write to people gone bad? Could kings write to people gone bad while they themselves are twisted? How in the woods could shadows that bend be straight when the trees are crooked? The king. The king's fickleness resembles the drunk. What should anger him pleases, what should please he debunks. He'll praise the excellent, then disdain it twice, rewarding his hacks for double the price. He'll bring you trouble. He'll bring you trouble with talk like dreams, invoking song and verse to cheat you. But dreams, my son, aren't what they seem. Not all the poet says is true. The wise understand. The wise understand the maker of parables without exerting much strength. But the fool won't fathom his slightest until you explain it at length. Assistance comes to judgment in groups. Assistant comes to judgment in groups, but rulers won't gather in pairs by the gate. Many, like the arrows, are found in a quiver, while the sword lies alone in the sheath. The good students tend. The good students tend to doubt mysteries, the foolish what's obvious, and the skillful singer from the well of reason draws wanders on the rope of his hunch. What's familiar is sometimes distance. What familiar is sometimes distance, and the distance sometimes brought near, and the cavalier ride in fetlock deep war, who falls finds up to his ear. The heart holds hidden knowledge. The heart holds hidden knowledge, and with words of its language, in your wisdom you'll find it, like a book that was written by an inept hand, and went unread until a sage looked through it, and saw what is said. First War. First War resembles a beautiful mouth we all want to flirt with and believe. Later, it's more a repulsive old whose color are bitter and colors are bare and grief. Sorry, that last one had a word not safe for this channel, and since I like having younger viewers learn about Jewish poetry and Jewish figures and old styles of medieval poetry, I did not say that word, and yeah. Soar don't sell. Soar don't sell for earth and sky. Soar to Orion and be strong, but not like an ox or mule that's driven strong like a lion. Commerce has markets. Commerce has markets, and the Council of the Learned is a market to law. The bazaars hold many merchants who settle on a price for every jewel. Three things. All who live by risk and resistance to manage three things. High sea commerce, excellent enemies, and the company of kings. The foolish enemy's face tells all. The foolish enemy's face tells all, but the clever deceives and offers you smiles and talks as though his heart were with yours, and acts like your friend or your child. Man's wisdom is in what he writes. Man's wisdom is in what he writes, good sense at the end of his pen, and using his pen he can climb to the height of the scepter in the hand of his king. And now we are on the last section of Samuel HaNagid's poetry, from Ben Kohelet, or aka translated after Ecclesiastes. If you like to know the world of the future, consider Ben Kohelet at length and know that time won't ever be killed with great advice or with strength. Gazing through the night. Gazing through the night and its stars, or the grass and its bugs, I know in my heart these swarms are the craft of surpassing wisdom. Think the skies resemble a tent stretched taut by loops and hooks, and the moon with its stars a shepherdess on a meadow grazing her flock, and the crescent hole in the looser clouds looks like a ship being tossed. A whiter cloud a girl in her garden tending her shrubs, and the dew coming down is her sister shaking water from her hair onto the path as we saw in our lives. Like beasts in their ample stalls, fling our terror of death like a dove its hawk in flight, though we'll lie in the end like a plate hammered into dust and shards. Lovers of life. Lovers of life on earth, know what you do is profound. You are spliced from the root of death, and branches return to the ground. The multiple troubles of man. The multiple troubles of man, my brother, like slander and pain, amaze you. Consider the heart which holds them all in strangeness and doesn't break. Be glad, she said. Be glad, she said. God brought you to 50 years in your world, but didn't know there's no division between, as I see it, my days that have passed and Noah's, of which I've heard. In the world I have nothing but the hour I'm in, which stands for a moment, and then like a cloud moves on. Earth to man. Earth to man is a prison forever. These tidbits then for fools run where you will. Heaven surrounds you, get out if you can. Your loved ones depress you. Your loved ones depress you with debt and transgression, and your friends remind you of all your flaws. So think of the sins you hold within you, as each destroys your worthiest cause. Your soul will struggle forever. Take care and don't entice it in secret. The Lord sees all. Soul opens inside you. Souls open inside you on beauty and then tells you to seek the world and ignores its flaws. Heart says you'll live forever, and death as it speaks grasps you with claws. The child at 1 or 2. The child at 1 or 2 crawls like a snake on the floor and at 10 he skips to his father. Like a kid among goats on the hills, at 20 love in his heart takes hold and he struts for girls. He basks in the glories of youth, for his pride and power at 30. Reaching 40, he ripens and joins the elders, his friends. At 50, the sleep of his youth in whiteness is brought to an end, and the terrors of time assault him. When a man passes 60 till 70, he sighs with age and seems to be saintly. By time surrounds him at 80, trapped in the fowler's snare, and at 90 he can't distinguish between the plow and scythe. At 100, who gets to 100, may approach him. When he lies with maggots, repulsive to one and all. So it's right that I wax ilgiac from time to time in my soul. Fear 5 to the power of 5. Fear 5 to the power of 5, illustrious youth growing old, spats turning hostile with friends, retribution for each transgression, achievement finding misfortune, and armies erased in the end. I quartered the troops for the night. I quartered the troops for the night in a fortress which soldiers destroyed long ago, and they fell asleep at its walls and foundations, while beneath us its masters slept on. And I wonder what had become of the people who dwelled here before us. Where were the builders and soldiers, the wealthy and poor, the slaves and their lords, the bereaved and the women in labor, the sons and their fathers, the mourners and grooms? Great nations had come in succession in the course of months and years, and they settle across the back of the earth, but rest in the heart of the ground, their magnificent palaces turning into tombs, their pleasant courts to dust. And if they could lift their heads and emerge, they'd take our lives and pleasure. In truth, my soul in truth, and soon I'll be like them and these sleepers. Why repeat the sins? Why repeat the sins? You know will make you sad and not hold back from sinning for sorrow, like a dove whose brood was slaughtered in the nest and yet returns over and over again until she's taken. Time defies and betrays the patricians. Time defies and betrays the patricians and drives all who grow proud and lengthens the maverick wandering and separate twins like a shroud. You felt the fear of death. You felt the fear of death when his being gave out and he died, and you moped around by his grave and forgot the grave in time. Why should the hearts of your purists, why should the hearts of you bear the grief you fear, yet may not follow? There'll be more than enough to withstand when the heart discovers its sorrow. Luxuries ease. Luxuries ease, but when trouble comes, people are plagued for the wealth they accrued. The peacock's tail is spectacular, but it weighs him down on the day he's pursued. You are trapped, my tongue. You are trapped, my tongue, and bound in my throat, and the doors conceal you. So how do you issue your arrow-like speech, your words like spears that kill? How from a pit so deep, how do you bring the innocent down? You have no balm except for the worm, which eats through the grave as you sleep. Friends, a fence surrounds us. Friends, a fence surrounds us, and spheres through which we'll never drill. And we, like the yolk in an egg and its white, and the world is our shell. You think there'll be refuge from evil, but there isn't any way out. What could we do that God hasn't done or even consider while we are being devout? Youth brings us. Youth brings us towards three things: memory, caution, and mind. And age always brings on an exchange oblivion, folly, decline. He who depends on the princes. He who depends on the princes rises and falls with their fates, as he who flamed by ship is saved from evil or sinks with its weight. On their couches stretched out at the treasury, on their couches stretched out at the treasury, where vigilance should know no relief, you fell asleep without fear by the window, and time came through like a thief. Come up and see the court. Come up and see the court of the patron you used to frequent. Where goats now camp, there remains neither door nor threshold within it, nor dog to bar its walls with scent. Suffer the world. Suffer the world you're trapped in, and your soul which is trapped in your flesh, through fertile thinking, barren cunning, and intrigue, impotent mesh. The market. I crossed through a souk where the butchers hung oxen and sheep at their sides. There were birds and herds of fatling like squid, their terror loud as blood congealed over blood and slaughter knives open veins. And booths alongside them, the fishmongers and fish in heap and tackle like sand. And beside them, the street of the bakers, whose ovens are fired through dawn. They bake, they eat, they lead their prey, they split what's left to bring home, and my heart understood how they did it and asked, who are you to survive? What separates you from these beasts, which were born anew, waking and labor and rest? If they had been given by God for your meals, they'd be free. If he wanted this instant, he easily put you in their place. They have breath like you and hearts which scatter them over the earth. There was never a time when the living didn't die, nor the young that they bare not give birth. Pay attention to this, you pure ones, and princes so calm in your fame. Know, if you fathom the worlds of the hidden, this is the law of man. Flutter or rest. Flutter or rest, every soul, in goodness receive its lot. To this one much, to another a little. Guile won't change what you have got. See the fraud flow by. See the fraud flow by like wire, slowly like fire glowing with flame. Time undoes what secrets accomplish like spies when seen who played the friend. The earthquake. And he recited this poem in which he describes an earthquake that took place in this city in the year 1047, and there was great fear since there had been nothing like it, and homes were destroyed, and the walls gave way, and many people nearly died. My shepherd, I'm still where I lie, and look out over your greatness. My mouth speaks of your miracles, and my tongue gives voice to your marvelous acts over the earth's place and foundation. Your hand has ruled, you have crushed the groves in season, and the vineyard's fruit, the fig and flower. How could a person sin when he sees the contortion of earth man's journey? God to the godless delivers him, and casts him into a wicked man's hand. You drive the soul like a leaf from its vine. As the harp is thrum, you drive it, and march across the earth's back, and then fold it up like a robe. He, when he pleases, who brings out the sun, and lights the hills with fire, ripples the mountains like wind, rippling spikes of wheat in a field. He causes the land to skip like a calf, it race like a wild young ox. His wrath twists the foundation like hikers through rugged terrain. I heard it and my stomach churned, and the voice of the rushing struggled, remembering now how it happened. My heart bogs and I tremble. You rose by dark to shake the earth. In the blackness of night and the gloom, you turned the land on its head like a bow, and its peaks beneath us buckled. He who remembers the fear of that night grows weary of life in his soul. It's gathered a terror so great, the highest among us were humbled twice ye thrice. God touched the earth, and like a drunkard it toppled. The quake shook like a troop spreading out in its raid on a city, and hearts gave way as it whitened the hair of women whose hearts were young. And the pillars of heaven weakened, the foundations of earth were destroyed. Its walls pressed upon each other, the highest tower came down, and all the dwellings were shaken, and they trembled in fear of the Lord. Buildings anchored firmly in earth weren't spared from destruction. The city walls were brought to the ground. Stricken like beaten olives, infants nursing slipped from their mothers and groped for their weakened grasp. They were scared and didn't know what to do. The righteous woman was one with a shrew. The sound of rupture came from the roofs, like a woman clawing her flesh, mourning the loss of her only son. Home collapsed on neighboring home. Achaia and cedar fell at the root, and the townspeople wallowed in earth, like a sword swaddled in cloth, and every standing thing bowed down. Servants fell onto bedding, they straightened the faces of all the king's daughters. Deep in their chamber were covered in fear, hearts with labor were straining, like mothers bearing their sons, and the soul of each man inside him tossed like a ship on the waves. As the men huddle in terrified crowds, confessing their sins, saying, "So the Lord congregation is judge, which didn't do justice to the afflicted and poor," it sated itself, grew coarse in its being and fat in its soul, grew thick and fat and kicked at the Lord. Then we said, "Our end has come, and destruction hand now sweeps the world." It moved from west to east, it didn't swerve from its path. It gave us to drink from the waters of ruin, and fed us its dew of death, and then after he crushed it, he steadied the earth to leave us a name and remnant to save us from a great deliverance. He bound the people in circle of joy and stripped off their jacket of fear. All through the night their song was heard, and thanks for the people's deliverance, for salvation and the robe of justice. The hand of the Lord had bestowed. May you always lift a hand high to redeem with mercy our rock. Lord, who floats the land over sea, who stretches the north over empty space and hangs the earth on nothingness. You have given sentence to be heard from the heavens. The earth feared and grew still. You shook the earth and cleft it. Now heal its wounds, for it totters. Two eclipses. At the end of the month Kislev, in the year 1044, he composed a poem in which he told of two eclipses, solar and lunar, which took place in the aforesaid month. And he announced that there would be a total lunar eclipse, the longest of its day, in the middle of the month of Iyar, the same year. My friend, are you sleeping? Rise and wake the dawn. Look at the sky like a leopard skin stripping above us. See the moon where it should be full, go dark like kettle kin, like the face of a girl, half of it flushed, the other dark in shadow. Return and glance at the sun brought to the end of a month in dimness, its halo of light on the darkness, like a crown on the head of a Libyan princess, and the earth whose sun has set, reddened as though with tears. Both of the beacons were stricken in the space of a single month by him whose dominion is splendor and strength. He covered the moon with circle of earth, and the sun with his moon. This is the work of the Lord who toys with creation. He fashioned patches of dark in the moon, and the sun he created clear. Therefore I liken them now, in their dimness against the dark, to women bereaved. The face of one is bruised, and the other both bruised and wounded. The light of day on a day gone dim, and the light of night darkened at evening. During the watch, like an angry king who brings trouble on his lords in their own domains, first he struck with brightness of night, and afterwards blotted the daylight. Like a king who prepared a poisonous cup for his mistress and then for his queen, behold what happened, look closely and wonder, study well and read. Yours is the greatness who brought the light in its weight and measure, and darkened the moon as its cycle's center. Like a bird caught in a snare, you'll do again in 5 months more, looking onto the earth, and you'll make it reel like a drunkard. You have ordered the moth and its eats, the bear and Orion in great constellation. You fixed for the living among them a place like a shield, and all when you rule will be trodden as one, though not without a shout and a winepress. Yours is the glory, yours entire, every horse and chariot hold. It's you who brings on heat in winter, and winter at summer's height. You who upends the abyss, who brings affliction into the sea, like a woman in labor, you who will cast towards all the living in death, as the arrow flies to its target. You on the bitter and great and terrible day of judgment, who will wake me and judge all who have forsaken the statutes, commandments, and law. When you place my deeds in judgment scale, may the sight of evil lighter rise. On the day you'll lift me from my dust, I'll turn, and my spirit in fear of you, of your wrath, will flee, and you'll say, Peace be upon you, be still, and do not fear. If there remains not a trace of my righteousness, may your mercy be near. The tyrant who rules the homeless and poor. The tyrant who rules the homeless and poor with harshness forgets, enticed by his power, that the Lord holds moments like arrows that kill, and one will soon strike through his liver. My spirit on which after God I lean and care for with all my labor, after these 50 long years together, why would you turn and run? The black of my hair. The black of my hair has gone white, and time bent my back, which had me been like an eye into a pea, and twisted both my legs like the leg of a T. Ask the dead, and they'll tell you. Ask the dead, and they'll tell you, Come, look at your vitas, secret and sins. Why insist that you have no creator while your mouth says liar through all your limbs. Send the Lord to the people. Send the Lord to the people who dwell in darkness, they who have been brought to the shadow of death by dimness. And set him beside the window to watch, to stand there and spy through the lattice. Cast your bread. Cast your bread, for it's good to give, and he whose hand is open will thrive, lest in the end the days deceive you and strip you of all you've been denied. Know of the limbs. Know the limbs embroidered with dust and covered with ashen skin. And in these graves see the power of kings reduced to the powder of bone. You whose soul on earth were exalted will soon rise over all, and be remembered in the world ever after as a dream as it fades is recalled. You mock me now in your youth. You mock me now in your youth because I've grown old and gray. I'm old, but I've seen the carpenters building their coffins for boys. You think there's no hell that will hold you. You think there's no hell that will hold you and run around like a fool. But at the end of all that's emotion is rest, of rains and the rivers a hole. You look through open eyes. You look through open eyes, but your heart is fast asleep, and you fear the wrath of the Lord, and your heart's transgression is deep. And the last one, everything's hidden. Everything's hidden, I explain, but the gist of your time from your wisdom is lost. And the moment you think of all that you've been through, you seem like a dream from the past. Then why, when a new day comes, are you glad with your child's delight in the world? And that's the last of the translated poems. Thank you for sticking around this long, and I will try to find a new project.